I never thought a single sentence from my mom could change everything I believed about myself. It started on a quiet Sunday morning, the kind where nothing seems important until something happens that makes you question who you really are. I was just sitting at the breakfast table, scrolling through my phone, half asleep, when Mom suddenly said, "I need you to be my daughter today." I thought I misheard her. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. "Wait, what?" I asked, looking up. She smiled, not her usual teasing smile, but something softer, heavier, like she'd been holding this thought for a while. "Just for one day," she said, "I want you to be my daughter." At first, I laughed. I thought she was joking, maybe testing some weird idea she saw online. But the way she looked at me, it wasn't a joke. There was something emotional behind her eyes, like she was remembering something painful. "It's for Grandma," she whispered, and suddenly the air in the kitchen went cold. Grandma. The one person who never really accepted the idea of losing her daughter, my mom, after Dad passed away. The one who still asked about a sweet little girl every time she called, as if Mom still had a daughter she lost. But she didn't. She had me. Just me. Mom took a deep breath. "You remember how fragile Grandma's been lately," she said. "She's not doing well, and she thinks she still has a granddaughter. I don't want to break her heart right now." I didn't know what to say. My first instinct was to refuse. I mean, how could I even look like her daughter? I was her son, a little awkward, quiet, more into books than sports, but definitely not someone who could just turn into a girl overnight. But Mom's eyes begged me, and something in me softened. "Just once," she said again. "Please." I could have said no. I wanted to say no. But something inside me, maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, made me nod slowly. "Okay," I said, "but you owe me for this." She smiled, the kind of relieved smile that makes you feel like you just did something huge without realizing it. "Deal," she said. That's how it started. I didn't even know what agreeing meant until she led me to her room, not mine, and opened her wardrobe. The sight stunned me. It was like another world, soft fabrics, pastel colors, fragrances that hung in the air like memories. My mom wasn't overly feminine, but her clothes had this grace to them. She pulled out a dress, light pink, simple, and flowing, and held it against me like she was measuring something more than just size. I laughed awkwardly. "Mom, seriously, this is weird." She didn't laugh. "I know," she said softly, "but it means a lot to me." I turned away for a second, pretending to roll my eyes, but when I looked back, I saw something new in her face, a sadness mixed with pride. It wasn't just about Grandma. It was about something else, something unspoken. She helped me get ready. Every piece of clothing felt strange against my skin, not bad, just unfamiliar, like stepping into someone else's life. She brushed my hair, adjusted things carefully, and when I looked at the mirror, I barely recognized myself. It wasn't perfect, I looked like me trying to be someone else, but there was something there that caught me off guard. My features softened. My eyes looked different. "See," Mom said quietly, standing behind me, "you could pass." I turned toward her, half laughing, half confused. "You're serious?" She nodded. "You remind me of someone I used to know," she said. I wanted to ask who, but her tone stopped me. Then came makeup. I resisted, but she insisted. "Just a bit. Grandma won't notice details, but she'll expect a certain look." She applied foundation, light blush, a little lipstick, and as strange as it sounds, I didn't feel ridiculous. Instead, I felt calm. Like a part of me I never explored was suddenly awake. When Grandma arrived that afternoon, my heart pounded so hard I thought she'd hear it before seeing me. Mom introduced me as Lena, and I forced a nervous smile. Grandma's old eyes lit up instantly. "My sweet girl," she cried, holding my hands, her grip trembling. "You've grown so beautiful." I wanted to correct her, to tell her who I really was, but then she smiled at Mom, that rare, pure smile of happiness, and I couldn't. For the first time in years, Grandma looked peaceful. That moment froze in my mind. I didn't break the illusion. Hours passed. I laughed, I talked, I even helped serve tea, doing my best to sound natural. Every now and then, I caught my reflection, and it didn't scare me anymore. It fascinated me. Who was this person looking back? When Grandma finally left, Mom hugged me tightly. You were perfect, she whispered. I smiled awkwardly, brushing off her thanks, but something inside me was changing. I didn't say it out loud, but I didn't hate what I saw anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the mirror, about the softness in my mom's eyes when she looked at me as Lena. I wondered if she saw something I didn't. The next morning, I expected everything to go back to normal, my clothes, my voice, my life. But it didn't. Mom knocked on my door gently. Hey, she said, can I come in? She was holding something behind her back, a small bag. What's that? I asked. She smiled nervously. I bought something for you. Just in case. Inside were clothes not hers, but mine. My size. Simple, but feminine. My first instinct was to laugh again, but my voice caught. Why? I asked. She sat on the edge of my bed. Yesterday. I saw a side of you I haven't seen in years. You looked happy, calm. Like you belonged. I frowned. Mom, I was pretending. She nodded slowly. Maybe. Or maybe you were being someone you've been hiding. I didn't have an answer for that. I didn't even know what to think. That whole day, her words haunted me. I tried to act normal, hang out with friends, play games, but something inside me had shifted. When I came home that evening, I saw the bag again, sitting on my chair. I don't know what made me do it, but I opened it. I took out a soft sweater, lavender, light, almost weightless. I held it up and looked in the mirror. For some reason, it didn't look wrong. It looked like something I could wear, not because Mom asked me to, but because I wanted to see who I was in it. I slipped it on. The feeling was strange but peaceful. That's when Mom walked in. She froze. For a moment, neither of us said a word. Then she smiled, not out of surprise, but understanding. You don't have to explain, she said softly. Just be honest with yourself. I didn't know what honesty even meant at that point. All I knew was that for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was pretending. That night, she told me something I wasn't ready for. When you were little, she said quietly, I used to dress you up sometimes, just for fun. You'd smile every time. But then your father would get angry, so I stopped. Maybe part of me missed that version of you. Maybe part of me still does. I stared at her, speechless. The memory was buried somewhere deep, but a faint image flickered in my mind: laughter, ribbons, the smell of Mom's perfume. I thought it was just imagination, but maybe it wasn't. She looked down at her hands. I'm not saying you have to be anyone you're not. But yesterday, I saw someone who looked free. And that's all I've ever wanted for you. Her words hit me like a wave. Free. I'd never thought of freedom as something that could look like this. I didn't answer her that night, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. The next day, I woke up and stared at my reflection again, same face, same features, but something felt off. It was like I'd seen another version of myself that refused to disappear. And that's when things really started to change. Mom began calling me Lena at home, sometimes half jokingly, half serious. At first, it annoyed me. But over time, it felt comforting. Like a secret language only we shared. Sometimes, she'd ask me to help her with things that she said only her daughter would understand: choosing fabrics, trying out new hairstyles. It felt silly, but each time I joined her, I found myself smiling more. One evening, she sat beside me and said it again, the same words that started it all, but this time, she meant something deeper. I need you to be my daughter, she whispered. Not for Grandma. For me. For you. And I realized maybe this wasn't just her wish anymore. Maybe it was mine too. I didn't know how quickly pretending could turn into becoming. What started as a one-time favor slowly began shaping my days, my thoughts, even the way I looked at myself. Mom didn't push me, not really. She just made it easy. Subtle things like keeping those clothes folded neatly in my drawer, or leaving a new hairbrush on my desk as if it had always been there. Little gestures that whispered rather than shouted. And even though I kept telling myself it was temporary, part of me stopped wanting it to end. But the world outside didn't know any of this. To everyone else, I was still me, quiet, careful, ordinary. Only inside that house did something else breathe. Mom treated it like our secret. She called me Lena sometimes, usually in a soft tone that carried both affection and a strange sadness. I didn't understand it then, but I think she saw this as a second chance not to change me, but to heal something broken inside her. It was 2 weeks after Grandma's visit when things took an unexpected turn. We were in the living room when Mom said, "Grandma wants to see you again." My stomach dropped. Again? But she already saw me. She'll notice something. Mom shook her head. She won't. She's been asking about you non-stop. She wants to take a photo with her granddaughter. The thought of doing it again terrified me, but also, strangely excited me. There was a calmness in that identity, like I could breathe differently. After a long pause, I nodded. Okay. Just this once more. This time, Mom didn't hesitate. She had everything ready: a soft blue dress, matching shoes, and light makeup that she said brought out the warmth in my face. When I looked in the mirror again, I noticed something I hadn't before: confidence. Not complete, but growing, like a flame refusing to die out. Grandma came over the next afternoon. Her eyes sparkled when she saw me again. "My beautiful girl," she said, holding my hands. "You remind me so much of your mother when she was young." I glanced at Mom, and she looked down quickly, hiding her emotions. I smiled for Grandma's sake, trying not to think about how natural this felt. We took pictures, we talked, and for the first time, I didn't have to force my voice or my gestures. They just happened. When Grandma left, I expected relief, but instead, I felt emptiness, like I'd left part of myself in that blue dress. I stood in front of the mirror again later that night and stared at my reflection long after I'd changed back into my regular clothes. It felt wrong somehow, like I was pretending the other version of me never existed. Mom must have sensed it. She knocked softly. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah. Just thinking." She stepped closer, seeing something in my face. "You looked happy today." I didn't respond. I didn't have the words. She didn't press. Instead, she said something that stuck with me for days. "Sometimes we wear masks so long, we forget which one is real. Don't be afraid to look underneath." Those words echoed in my head. I started noticing things: how my walk had changed slightly, how I spoke softer without meaning to, how even my handwriting shifted when I wrote my name. I didn't tell anyone, but I started experimenting: small things, private things. A different hairstyle. A light touch of concealer. A bracelet Mom once gave me. I told myself it was just curiosity, but deep down, it was more. Then came the real test. It was a Saturday, and Mom was hosting a family lunch. My aunt, uncle, and cousins were coming, people who hadn't visited in years. I was halfway through cleaning when Mom appeared, holding another outfit. "I have a crazy idea," she said with a nervous smile. My stomach tightened. "Mom, no. Not this time." She hesitated. "I know it's asking a lot. But your aunt keeps asking about my daughter." I didn't correct her. I blinked. "You what?" She sighed. "It just slipped out once, and I didn't fix it. Now she's expecting to meet her." I stared at her, speechless. "Mom, that's not something you can just." "I know," she interrupted softly, "but it's too late to change now. Please, just one last time. I promise." I didn't trust that promise, but I couldn't say no either. The desperation in her voice felt too real. So, I agreed again. This time, I got ready myself. No guidance, no direction, just me and the mirror. I remembered everything she'd done before, the motions, the patience. When I was done, I stood back and realized something. I didn't look like a copy of Mom anymore. I looked like someone new, someone becoming real. When my relatives arrived, there was chaos, laughter, greetings, and then silence when they saw me. My aunt's mouth fell open slightly. "Oh, my goodness," she whispered. "She's stunning." I froze. My heart hammered so loudly it drowned everything else. But Mom smiled smoothly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "This is my daughter, Lena." They accepted it instantly. No one questioned anything. I played along, terrified but exhilarated. The conversations flowed, and soon I found myself laughing, even forgetting the fear. My cousin complimented my outfit, and I blushed genuinely. It wasn't until hours later, when everyone left, that the weight of what happened truly hit me. Mom looked at me with quiet awe. "You did it," she said. But I couldn't celebrate. I sat down on the edge of my bed, trembling slightly. "Mom, who am I right now?" Her face softened. "You're you," she said simply. "And that's enough." I didn't know whether to believe her. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I scrolled through my phone, looking at the photos from earlier, the smiles, the laughter. I saw a girl who looked real, happy, alive. But she was me. Or was she? The days that followed were strange. I started noticing how people treated me differently, even strangers. Once, I went with Mom to a nearby store, still dressed as Lena, because she said it'd be easier to keep up appearances if someone saw us. I felt anxious, sure everyone would notice. But no one did. The cashier smiled kindly. Another woman complimented my hair. For the first time, I wasn't pretending. The world accepted me without question. That night, I told Mom how surreal it felt. "People just saw me that way," I said. "Like it was normal." She smiled softly. "Because it is normal. You didn't fool anyone. You just showed a part of yourself that fits naturally." Her words lingered like warmth. I didn't argue. Deep down, I knew she was right even if I wasn't ready to admit it. But not everything stayed calm. One evening, while helping Mom organize old boxes, I found a photograph I'd never seen before. It was faded, taken years ago. There was Mom, holding a little child wearing a dress, hair tied up, smiling. My breath caught. That was me. I recognized my face instantly. I stared at the photo, confusion flooding me. "Mom, what is this?" She froze when she saw what I was holding. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, quietly, I thought I threw that away. My voice trembled. "You dressed me like that when I was little." She nodded slowly. "You used to ask for it. You loved it. You called yourself Lena even then. I thought you'd forget. But maybe you never did." The room felt like it was spinning. I sat down, clutching the photo. I wanted to say she was wrong, that I'd forgotten, that it was just childhood nonsense, but deep down, something broke open. I remembered small moments, laughter, hair clips, giggling at my reflection. Maybe that memory never really left me. Maybe I just buried it because I thought I wasn't supposed to feel that way. Mom sat beside me, her voice gentle. "I didn't mean to hide it from you. I just wanted you to choose who you wanted to be. But I think you already have." I didn't reply. I just kept staring at that old picture, the smile of a child who didn't yet know what the world expected. That night, I took the photo to my room. I couldn't stop looking at it. I placed it beside the mirror and whispered, "Who are you really?" For the first time, I didn't feel scared of the answer. The next morning, I dressed as Lena again, not because anyone asked me to, but because I wanted to see if it still felt right. It did. When I walked into the kitchen, Mom looked up, her eyes glistening slightly. "You look just like you used to," she said softly. I smiled faintly. Maybe that's because I'm finally being who I am. She didn't speak. She just reached over, held my hand, and whispered, "Welcome home, my daughter." And in that quiet, I realized something had shifted forever, not just between us, but inside me. What began as a disguise had become a reflection. And the reflection was starting to feel more real than the person I used to be. The strange thing about pretending is that after a while, you stop realizing where the act ends and the truth begins. I thought I could control it, keep it hidden, switch between versions of myself depending on who was watching. But the more I tried to balance both lives, the harder it became. It was like living between mirrors, one reflection always bleeding into the other. At home, I was Lena most of the time now. It wasn't something we talked about openly, it just happened naturally. I helped Mom around the house, joined her on errands, even cooked together sometimes. She'd introduce me as her daughter when neighbors saw us, and though I'd flinch at first, eventually it stopped feeling wrong. Every time she said my daughter, something in me warmed and terrified me at the same time. But outside of home, I was still the old me. I still went to classes, hung out with friends, laughed at the same jokes. Or at least I tried to. I started noticing how fake my laughter sounded, how I avoided mirrors in public restrooms because the person staring back didn't match what I felt inside. I kept telling myself it was just confusion, just a phase that would fade when things calmed down. But the truth was, I didn't want it to fade. It all came crashing down one afternoon. I'd just gotten back from school when Mom met me at the door, her face pale. "Grandma's in the hospital," she said quietly. My heart sank. We rushed to the car and drove there, silence stretching between us. When we arrived, Grandma looked weaker than ever, her eyes half closed but still searching. She smiled faintly when she saw me. "My Lena," she whispered, reaching out. I froze. I hadn't come dressed as her this time. I was just me. The old me. Mom hesitated, then gently said, "Mom, this is," but Grandma cut her off, her voice soft but firm. "I know who this is," she said, her gaze fixed on me. "She doesn't have to hide from me." For a moment, no one moved. The machines beeped softly in the background, and I felt my throat tighten. "Grandma, you knew?" She smiled faintly. "I'm old, not blind. I saw the way you looked at yourself, the way you smiled when you felt free. You don't have to pretend anymore." Tears stung my eyes. I wanted to speak, to explain, but words failed me. Mom sat quietly, her hand gripping mine, trembling. That night, after Grandma fell asleep, we drove home in silence. The weight of what she'd said hung between us. When we finally parked, Mom turned to me. "She knows," she whispered, her voice breaking. "And she's okay with it." I didn't know what to say. A part of me felt relieved, another terrified. If Grandma could see it, could accept it, then what was stopping the rest of the world from finding out? Days passed. Grandma's condition worsened, but she always asked for me as Lena. So every time I visited, I dressed the way she remembered, even if it hurt to switch back afterward. I'd walk through the hospital halls, terrified someone would recognize me, but also strangely proud. Every visit felt like a goodbye, not just to her, but to the person I used to be. And then one evening, she was gone. The call came just after sunset. Mom sat at the edge of her bed, silent, her hands trembling. I didn't know how to comfort her. I tried to speak, but she shook her head. "She saw you before she went," she said softly. She said she was proud. The funeral was quiet. Family, close friends, a few neighbors. I dressed in simple black, not sure which version of myself I was supposed to be that day. Halfway through the service, I saw my aunt whispering to someone, glancing at me curiously. My stomach tightened. Later, after everyone left, my aunt approached. "Your mother's daughter," she said, studying me carefully. "You remind me of someone." I swallowed hard. "Thank you," I muttered, unsure what else to say. That night, Mom and I sat together in the living room, the silence heavy with grief. Finally, she looked up at me. "She saw you," she said softly, "the real you. And she gave me peace about it." I stared at her, confused. "Peace?" Mom nodded slowly. "I used to worry that I pushed you into this. That maybe I created something you didn't want. But now I think I just helped you see what was already there." Her words shook me. I'd spent so long thinking this was all her idea, something I did to make her happy. But deep down, it wasn't about her anymore. It was about me and the truth I'd been running from. But the truth doesn't stay hidden forever. A week later, it happened. Someone from my class saw me, not the old me, but Lena, while I was with Mom at a cafe. It was just supposed to be a quiet day out, but the moment I saw that familiar face across the street, my heart stopped. He froze too, staring, confused. I turned away quickly, pretending not to notice, but I knew it was too late. That night, my phone buzzed non-stop. Messages, questions, photos. Someone had posted a picture, blurry but recognizable enough. "Is this you? Dude, what's going on? Why are you dressed like that?" I felt sick. The walls felt smaller, the air heavier. Mom found me staring at my phone, pale. "What happened?" she asked. I showed her the screen. She sighed deeply and sat beside me. "I guess it was bound to happen." I shook my head. "You don't get it. They'll never understand. They'll laugh, They'll call me names. She looked me straight in the eyes. Then let them. You can't control what people say. You can only control what you believe. I wanted to be brave like her, but fear choked me. For 2 days, I didn't leave my room. I ignored calls, messages, everything. But then something unexpected happened. One of my friends texted me someone I'd known for years. "Hey," he wrote, "if that's really you, I just want you to know you looked happy. I've never seen you smile like that." That one message changed everything. The fear didn't disappear overnight, but it started to lose its power. I went downstairs that evening, still shaky but determined. Mom looked up from the couch. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "I don't know if I am," I said, "but I want to be." She smiled faintly. "Then start with that." The next day, I did something I never thought I could. I went out as Lena, not for Grandma, not for Mom, but for me. Every step felt heavy, every glance around me felt like a test. But I kept walking. People passed, some looked, some didn't. No one stopped me. No one said anything cruel. The world didn't end. When I came home that evening, Mom was waiting. I didn't have to say a word. She saw it in my face. "You did it," she said softly. I smiled. I did. From that day on, I stopped switching. It wasn't about hiding anymore. It was about living honestly. Some people accepted it, some didn't, but it didn't matter as much as I thought it would. I realized that identity isn't about clothes or names. It's about the feeling of peace when you finally stop pretending. Weeks passed. Life didn't magically become easy, but it became real. I started studying from home for a while, figuring out what came next. Sometimes, I'd still look at that old photo of me as a child and smile, not because it showed who I used to be, but because it showed I'd always been this person deep down. One evening, as we were having dinner, Mom looked at me quietly and said, "You know, I think she'd be proud of both of us." "Grandma?" I asked. She nodded. She'd say we finally learned how to live without fear. I looked at her and smiled. "Maybe you did too." For a moment, we just sat there, no pretending, no masks, just truth. It felt like breathing fresh air after being underwater for years. And then she said it again, those same words that started everything. "I'm glad you're my daughter." This time, I didn't feel confused. I didn't feel scared. I just whispered back, "So am I." But I knew deep down, the story wasn't over. Because living as Lena wasn't just a decision, it was a beginning. And beginnings are never simple. I remember the first morning after everything changed. I woke up before the sun, the room still dim and quiet, and for a moment I didn't recognize myself. My reflection on the mirror opposite the bed looked like someone else, the soft hair brushing against my cheek, the light pink nails, the shape of my shoulders beneath the fabric of the nightgown Mom had picked for me. It wasn't just the clothes anymore. It was something deeper, something that had been growing inside me quietly all along. The person I saw staring back wasn't pretending. She looked right. And that realization scared me more than anything else. Mom knocked on the door softly before opening it, holding a cup of warm tea like she always did. She smiled when she saw me sitting there lost in thought. "You look peaceful," she said gently. I didn't know how to respond. Peaceful wasn't the word I would have chosen. Confused, maybe. Afraid, definitely. But there was something comforting about her words, as if she saw a calm in me that I couldn't yet accept. She sat beside me, brushing my hair with her fingers like she used to when I was little. "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" she asked softly. I shook my head. She smiled faintly. "I see someone who's learning to breathe again. For so long you were holding your breath, trying to be what everyone told you to be. And now, you're finally letting yourself exist." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I wanted to argue, to tell her that this wasn't really me, that I was just doing what she wanted, but my voice betrayed me. It cracked when I whispered, "But I'm supposed to be your son."